morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alex Paul from InvestorStream, and I'll be your host today. Presenting for you today is Roolife Group Managing Director Brian Carr, who will give a brief overview on the company's progress before a Q&A following a presentation. Questions can be submitted either through the questions section on Zoom or by emailing me at alex@investorstream.com.au. We'll attempt to get through as many questions as time permits. A copy of the webinar will also be available on RLG's website and social media platforms later today. But for now, I'd like to throw it over to Brian to kick things off for us. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alex, and welcome to the attendees today. So just as a brief introduction to RLG and what we do, we are an e-commerce and digital marketing company that we operate globally. We specialise in taking brands into new markets, and our focus is very much in the food, beverage, health and wellness space. And we're expanding that further with our own brand, Vora, all distributed and operated and managed through the RLG marketplace. So we operate globally. We have clients across 7 countries, and it's a platform that has successfully generated product sales of $36 million. So it's a proven system that works and works well to take businesses to new markets. So that RLG marketplace, it encompasses a whole raft of functionality and capability. So everything that a brand or a company needs to sell to be able to sell successfully, it's all things from digital marketing to online store operation to warehousing to logistics. And it's a comprehensive end-to-end solution that drives product sales for companies. And it says it's proven. It's something we deliver across Australia, China, and the Southeast Asian market, and it is completely scalable and allows us to take this solution into new markets also. Now, the types of products that we like to work with are usually best in breed, number one in their own market. Some of these brands people will no doubt be familiar with, some very successful ones such as Remedy Drinks Kombucha, number one in Australia. We've now successfully made that number one in its category in China. Other great brands like Mini Jumbuck, Hydrolite, Bodie's, and also our own brand, because operating in these markets and being able to service the demand that we identify puts us in a very privileged position. We see really good growth opportunities in that health and wellness space, and why we're also growing out our own brand in those sectors, in those markets as well. Now, in terms of us as a business, where we're coming from, where we're going to, as an organisation, we're very focused on driving higher margin from the product sales and aligning our sales channels to achieve that outcome. This was demonstrated through June, where our newly appointed sales channel following this model was delivering 25% gross profit margin to the company. Now, we continue to optimise our sales conversion methods, and we're expanding our sales platforms and looking for expanded geographic reach as well. So the expertise and the knowledge and the product information and capability that we have, once again, is scalable and allows us to take these products to new markets where we identify the demand and we service that demand. We already operate online stores across Australia and China. We do have projects underway to launch new stores into new markets through the balance of 2024. As you can see, we've consistently managed our costs. We've reduced our resource staff costs 40% over the last 5 quarters. Our profit and loss performance is improved 18% in the last financial year. And as you can see, we're driving up our gross margins, and our net cash from operating activities in the last quarter was a positive $100,000. Now, how do we do that? We're really looking to identify the product demand in the markets that we operate in. So our most recent example was we're looking at raw materials from Australia. Australia and its products are held in high regard globally. And certainly in the market in which we operate in China. And that's a great example of us taking a raw material from Australia, the high regard it's held there, and generating a Australian beer our own RLG Kangaroo beer, but also looking at other opportunities. I think there's a recent article in the Australian talking specifically about the agricultural products demand and the growth opportunity in China for Australian products. And that's very much where we're focusing our business. So we're driving that margin growth by looking at the input ingredients, potentially manufacturing in the market, close to the client, and reducing our costs, increasing our margins. And we see a raft of opportunities, which I'll touch on a bit later in the presentation, in terms of ones that we're already working on that are already advanced, and a raft of new ones as well that we continue to explore. Now, the example of that I referenced is our recent announcement, whereby we have partnered with a beer producer in China to produce our own RLG Kangaroo beer, successfully launched and being sold through June, July, August, and most recently our announcement to secure another distribution sales agreement to deliver a minimum of $1.25 million of RLG Kangaroo beer sales over the next year. Now, this provides RLG access to what is the largest and fastest growing beer market in the world. So it's a significant market that we now have our foot in the door on, and we're seeing very, very good results. And it's the perfect example of taking quality Australian ingredients, value adding in market, and driving sales and margin growth. Some other strategic cooperations that we've been working on and putting in place. As I said, we're very focused in the food, health and wellness space. Our recent cooperation agreement puts us into a framework whereby we are operating with one of the largest food distributors in China for us to source product that they are seeking and for us to partner together to take that into market. Now, we do that on a case-by-case basis. Those processes are well underway, and we look forward to updating the market on each of these transactions as we progress. Another company, a very, very solid, sound, successful company, China's largest producers of dates and nut-based snacks, listed on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, requiring additional core ingredients to continue to grow their business, partnering with RLG for us to work with them to source those ingredients, to bring, manufacture and sell directly into market. So once again, following the formula that we've applied to the RLG Kangaroo beer and looking for growth in additional sectors. We identify and we know that when we can see demand for products, the ability for us to source those products, to put them under our own brand name, Vora or RLG, and it allows us to very quickly enter the market. It allows us to service the identified demand and orders that we have for those products, and that then gives us a beachhead to grow out further products in those markets, but also to take those products to new markets in which we're exploring and developing a customer base in over time. Now, the growth opportunities that we've been working on have been globally. We've been looking at market opportunities, but starting from the position of identifying demand for particular products, sales channels with existing client and customer bases, whereby we can work together, align our interests, use our expertise and our capability to source, build and bring the products and brands that are in high demand. Now, these are multi-directional partnerships as well. So to us working and going into a new market or an existing market like China and building out those very strong partnerships and relationships allows us not just to service the market in the domestic space, but to also look to work closely with these companies to take their products outside of their domestic market and use our expertise and our capability to reach a global and international customer base. Now, with these opportunities in hand, we've very much identified that we can grow very quickly from here. We've identified the opportunity to increase our margins, and we can do it in such a way that we don't need to increase our resources. So we saw a very strong opportunity for shareholders to participate at the launching phase of this next stage of our business. Now, we recently announced our rights issue. It's quite a simple formula whereby we are raising $3.18 million. The rights issue is underwritten to the extent of $1.5 million, including $100,000 from directors. All directors are participating in this rights issue. It shows, hopefully, and demonstrates the confidence that we have in the business and the way moving forward that we can continue to grow out the business and deliver shareholder value. Now, the closing date for that rights issue, 19th of September. For those shareholders who do have any questions, please do contact us. And also for those interested, I've included the link to participate in the rights issue. So just in closing and summarising where we are and what we do. So we offer a compelling and in-demand service. We market, sell, promote, and operate selling food, beverages, health, and wellbeing products in high-growth markets. We're delivering sales of $36 million on those platforms, so it's a proven platform. We have all of the existing infrastructure in place to deliver solutions for clients and for growth for our shareholders in terms of being able to deliver everything from how do you enter the market, to promote, to transact, to receive payments. So we have all of those systems already in place that are all completely scalable. We've continued to grow out our own brand, our own health food range, as we said, because it gives us the ability to identify opportunities and move very quickly into market. So as a business, we've got a mix of recurring service revenue, but increasing product sales over time with increasing margins. And we've demonstrated we've been able to do this with a declining resource base. So we think now is a very exciting time period for the company, and we would welcome existing shareholders and new shareholders to join us on this journey. So I thank you for your time, and I open the floor to any questions there may be.
Thank you, Brian. We have had a couple of questions come through. Firstly, to start, in your view, how has the appetite for Australian products grown in China, particularly since COVID? And what have been the key factors in that growth in your view?
I think if you look at the statistics and the facts, Australia's exports to China continue to grow every year. Australian products are held in very high regard. You read about that, but I also see it firsthand when I visit these channels to hear what they're looking for. And the common theme is that they're looking for high quality, healthy Australian products. And that has very much driven our approach to market of sourcing those products, taking them into China and value adding in China, as we've done with our beer product.
Thanks, Brian. Now, you've obviously spent a fair bit of time in China of late, speaking with investors and stakeholders. What has been the general feedback from your dealings in China?
I think it's common. As I said, look, I am constantly being approached with opportunities for new channels to sales, for sales channel development, but also looking for assistance with as much as we're very skilled in taking Chinese products into China. A lot of Chinese companies are also looking for expansion outside of China. And we're well placed to assist with that. We have the digital marketing capability and e-commerce capability, both in Australia and in China. So it's a great fit for us to be able to operate in both ways. So, there's officially the engagement between Australia and China is improving all the time. It's very much an open engagement now. And as I said, look, they're even reading recent articles around the farming and agricultural opportunities for Australian businesses. So it's not just us seeing these opportunities. There's a lot of different sectors now seeing that China is really opening up and growing and presenting a very strong market opportunity for them.
And just on that, Brian. In terms of target markets, is China still the priority, or are you exploring possible entry into multiple markets?
Yeah, certainly China remains a strong market for us because we've got the demand there. We've got identified demand and growing demand, which we're seeking to service. But having said that, I think there are some very strong other growth markets around the world, which we have already started looking into very seriously. We've already looked at transitioning our products, our services, and that into new markets. And I think over the coming months, we will be able to confirm to shareholders and investors some significant developments in those areas.
Thanks, Brian. A reminder, if you wanted to send a question through, please send it through via the Q&A platform in the Zoom pane at the bottom of the screen there. Now, Brian, can you just please elaborate on the existing platforms that are being used by RLG to distribute products? And can you please comment on the use of platforms such as Amazon and any statistics on the use of these platforms?
Across the board, we see that different platforms in different geographies have certain benefits and alignment, and that's where our expertise fits in. So we put together a range of different solutions online, which could be digital marketing and also into platforms directly. Now, that works obviously different in different geographies, and I guess that's the benefit we bring as a company, is that we bring the expertise and the advice and the knowledge to be able to work with the brand to take them into various countries or geographies with the specific platform. So it may be an Amazon in Australia or the US or through Asia, or it may be platforms like TikTok or Pinduoduo or Tmall in China. So we're having that expertise to say, look, this is the best solution for you in this market, and we have that capability in-house to support you.
Thanks, Brian. Now, given global business and multiple revenue streams, are you able to comment on why the share price is so cheap?
I think we've come through a period certainly of I guess lack of visibility of the company. We've been working very hard in the market, and I think that there's been some concern over a period of time with regards to the relationship between Australia and China. That has certainly changed and improved, and I think that there will be a shifting in valuations for both companies in the small cap sector, but ultimately dealing with China as well, as people start to realise that sales are still being achieved in China. As a reference point, the economy in China is now double the size of what it was in 2016, when many people thought China was a must-have market. So it's a much larger market than it was then, and it's still growing now at 5%. It's not 9%, but it's 5% on a very, very large base. It's the second largest market in the world. It is the largest e-commerce market in the world. So I think that there will be a transition as people start to recognise and accept that China still represents a very good opportunity. But also, if you look at RLG, we're not just a China-facing business. We do have markets in other geographies, other countries, and we will be continuing to add to that as well.
Thanks, Brian. Just on that, as you mentioned, it's such a large market. Can you comment on how you plan to maximise traction in such a large and concentrated e-commerce market in China, particularly the middle class, which I think you may have mentioned in previous initiatives that it is worth a multi-billion dollar market. How do you manage to, or how do you plan to maximise traction?
We work very closely with local partnerships and offline distribution as well as online. So we partner strongly with groups who have existing client bases, existing identified demand, and we service that identified demand as a baseline. Then we grow out and market our products around and over the top of that. So it gives us a very strong footprint to begin with. And we do enter those markets, and we do market the products with an intimate knowledge of what products are being sought, what the competitive environment is, and we look for key differentiation points in the products that we take into market.
Thanks, Brian. Now, you recently announced a new sale agreement for RLG's Kangaroo beer, which you mentioned in the presentation, for a minimum sales of $1.25 million in year one. Can you just talk to the scope for potentially growing that agreement over multiple years?
Yeah, I think that the positioning, and you touched on this in an earlier question, was that China is such a large market. Now, this is for a channel in one province in China. So these are significant markets in their own right, many times the size of Australia just in one province. So we're looking for other partnerships to service other provinces around China as well, whereby we can form the right relationship with the right distribution channel. And it shows you just what the scale of opportunity is just within the China market. And that's before we start to look at other markets globally as well.
Thanks, Brian. So in your view, who is RLG's biggest competitor, and how does RLG plan to keep a competitive advantage against them?
I think our biggest competitors are probably smaller competitors that are dealing specific with products in market. I think China as a market is so large, nobody, no matter how big they are, can service the entire market. So our positioning within that sort of geography, I think, is very strong. We've got a very good track record, very good reference points in terms of the products that we deal with. Our credibility is very strong. So I'm very comfortable that there's still very good growth opportunities within that market. But our ability to translate that into other jurisdictions is one of our key points as well. So having a sort of a work and resource base and reach that already extends across borders allows us to reach into other countries very easily with a cross-border introduction and starting point, and then building out those strong in-market channels for sales that we have historically proven our capability in doing. And so we have a good understanding on how to deliver that growth, not just in the markets we're in, but in new markets as well.
Thanks, Brian. So, and just finally, so I guess following on from that, what do you think is RLG's key point of difference? As you mentioned, it is a large and concentrated market, and everyone's looking for a different niche. What's yours in your view?
I think that we can very quickly take a company's product into market, launch it, and be achieving sales and giving great transparency and visibility of the conversion to client and who those clients are. So the ability to quickly engage and commence selling into a new market with all aspects that are required to deliver a sales outcome is an invaluable asset that we have that I think just about any business in the world would want.
Thanks, Brian. Look, that's all the time we have today. Thank you all for joining me. And I'd also like to thank Brian for presenting and taking the time to answer some questions. As I mentioned before, a recording of the webinar will be on RLG's website and social media platforms later today. Brian, before I let you go, do you have any final comments to leave with us today? Probably just a very, very simple message of please look at what the company is doing, what we're achieving. And I think probably one of the strong endorsements for us is the investment that we have secured from Chinese investors who actually understand the true strength of our offering in the Chinese market, who invested at a significant premium to the current share price, and who continue to support the company in driving sales in China. So that's a key reference point for China. But also, please consider the further growth opportunities globally for RLG, and that we will update the market with accordingly as we progress on each of those steps. So that's the closing. And I appreciate the time for people sitting in today. And as I said, look, if any further questions, please do pass them through. Fantastic. That wraps it up for us here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brian. Have a great day.
Thank you, Alex.